Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to another special episode of Movie Goodness here on the KB Radio Network. I'm your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of HBO's The Last of Us Season 1, Episode 6, entitled Kin. How are we doing out there, everybody? Man, it feels like forever since the last episode. It has only been it's only been 9 days, but that those 2 extra days, it felt like 2 extra weeks, man. Just anticipating the return of this TV show on HBO. As you know, last week the episode was released on Friday due to the Super Bowl coming out, well, being played on Sunday. So HBO decided to move it up on to Friday last week. So yeah, 2 extra days to kind of stew over an emotionally draining episode. I mean, episode 5 was just gut wrenching, man. I'm still emotional from that episode, and we finally arrive at this Sunday, and we get episode 6. And episode 6, once again, man, 6 for 6, 6 for 6. This episode, right off the bat, I'm gonna say was a little slower moving than the previous 5, but at this point, if you're deeply engaged in this show and a big fan of the video game property, this is par for the course. This episode once again was ripped right out of the video game. It is everything that you expected it to be, with a couple of exceptions. They did make some changes from the video games in this episode, but it did help move the story along, dare I say, a little better. you know, um, this show, and I've said it every week, and I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm truly amazed by the detail of this show. How the showrunners behind The Last of Us is, you know, firmly committed to honoring the source material, which is the video game. I mean, sets, even lines of dialogue, uh, ripped from the game and placed in the show, but done just subtle little tweaks. You know what I'm saying? Just subtle little tweaks to add more weight to what was going on in the video game. And if you haven't played the Last of Us video game, I know it's amazing if you sit down and you actually watch. I'm actually envious of you. Well, because I'm watching this show with my wife, and of course she didn't play the video game. I don't even think she ever watched me play the video game, but I get envious of her because she is truly into it, not knowing what's coming up. Not knowing what what lays ahead. And for that reason, I am truly envious of her because she is enjoying the show, and yet and still, I'm still sitting there, kind of in awe, kind of asking the questions, what's next? Even though I know, but at any point the ball can drop and they just do a complete swerve on us. You know what I'm saying? It's possible. It is truly possible, but thus far they haven't. This has been a joy to watch, man. To really see all these actors really give it. I mean, I'm looking at this show possibly in next year's Emmys just run the table. I have not seen acting like this in a television show in a long time. I mean, where every single person brings it. Stemming from last week with the great performances by what's those two gentlemen's name? Lamar Johnson, I believe, and Kevon Woodland. I can't remember his name, but the deaf actor, or yeah, I think he's deaf. The deaf actor, and that was just some powerful acting. And in this episode, between these two awesome performers of Pedro Pascal and Gabrielle Luna, who plays Tommy. The scenes they had together, I believe they're brothers. The way they interact, the way they banter, the way they look at one another is truly a brother relationship, and you feel that these two characters have a history. You know, it that you don't need to hear everything that took place throughout the last 20 years since the pandemic or epidemic or whatever of this infected fungal infection, but you know the story just by their emotions. You know what I'm saying? And they really brought it out of each other. And my God, what a performance by these two actors, especially the scene when they were in the, I guess, that shoe shop when Joel is trying to fix his shoe and Joel breaks down and tells Tommy what's going on with him emotionally, you know. And we're going to get to that scene, but this episode here kicks off 3 months after episode 5, after the tragedy that took place in Kansas City, I believe it was, where it was set last week, where we saw the story of Henry and Sam. And boy, you needed 3 months. We need 3 months to get over that. So we pick up 3 months later, and Joel and Ellie have arrived in Wyoming. And this particular scene, the opening scene of this episode, is something brand new. This is not in the game. These two characters are made up for the television show, and that is the character of Marlon and Florence, who are played by Graham Greene. And I love Graham Greene. Every time he pops up on anything, a movie, a TV show, I just love that dude. I don't know what it is. It's just something about him I like. And Miles, who I've seen her in other things, but I can't. I really was tearing my inner head apart. Some might call it a brain, but I was tearing it apart trying to figure out where I seen her before. But I love their characters here, and they're only in it for what 3 minutes or however long that scene is, and it was it was a nice scene. It was a real good scene. Florence is comedic. She's sitting in her rocking chair like whatever, you know. And you have Marlon who's there, and uh, they have their conversation with Joel and Ellie. All the while, Joel is trying to figure out how to get to Tommy, and we figured, it never really dawned on me until this episode where Joel is moving heaven and earth to get to Tommy. He's been trying to get back to Tommy ever since this show has started, or ever since, we picked up 20 years later after that first episode. So there's a 20-year gap there where we don't know the history between Joel and Tommy and what exactly tore them apart, or separated them, however you want to word it there. But Joel has been trying to contact him, trying to get in touch with him, trying to figure out where he is. Is he safe? And now he's so close, and he's desperate to get to him, get to his brother. And for numerous reasons, and we're going to find out why in a little bit. But he's trying to get this information out of Marlon and Florence to see if they know where he is. Have they heard of him? Have they heard of the Fireflies? Should they go west? And it was just a beautiful line in this scene when Joel asks, what's your best advice for going west? And Marlon just leans up in his chair and he said, yeah, go east. know, go east. There's nothing good going west. And so they explained that, once they cross the river, there's nothing but death on the other side of that river. There's the infected, there's hunters, there's just nothing good on the other side of that river. So this gives Joel some trepidation, He's like, well, man, do I really want this in my life? And Ellie has a great line. You know, you're not going to scare us. But Florence has an even greater line. Well, it scared him plenty. And Joel just has that look on his face, you know, because he's doubting making this journey across this river with Ellie. I think if it was just him, he wouldn't care. But if the fact that he has Ellie with him is what's giving him the pause. But he knows he has to do this. So they continue on their journey. All the while they run into these patrols on horses, and I would say the most tense moment of the episode happens right here. This is the scene where these hunters, or not these hunters, but uh Tommy's people, I guess you could say, or the people of Jackson, they come surround Joel and Ellie. They have this dog. This dog can sniff out an infection. So the dog sniffs Joel. Of course, Joel's not infected, so we're good. But the dog still had to sniff Ellie. And I mean, tension there, boy, because you like, oh my God, if this dog smells this on her, they're going to kill her. Or they're going to kill them both, probably. So the dog makes his way over to Ellie, and you see that look on Joel's face, that same look he had in the first episode when that Fedra agent finds them sneaking out of the city, and he has to make a move. He has to protect Ellie and Tess, and he beats that guard or that Fedra agent to death with his bare hands. And he has that same look, like he's gonna have to make a move. But right before he makes that move, the dog doesn't smell it on her. She's not, technically, she's not infected. She's immune. So they go to Jackson. And he finds Joe. I mean, he finds Tommy. And what a reunion, man! The look on Pedro Pascal's face. This is why I say the acting here is like top notch, because just the look when he saw Tommy on that scaffold, and he yelled, "Tommy!" It was like a kid at Christmas. You know, it's like he literally came across the country to find him, and he finally found him. He didn't know what had happened to his brother. And I mean that look of joy, because this is a hardened man. This is a broken man. He has detached himself from humanity, basically. You know, he has no soul in a sense, because he's lost everything he's loved, you know. So he's just there. And to find that one person that he still technically has, you know, that one family, that one piece of family that he still has, it just brought him joy, which plays with the title, Ken. And they hugged, they embraced. It was beautiful. And we find out that Tommy is married to Maria. Maria is played by Ratina Wesley. You may know her from what is it, Queen Sugar? I think that's the name of the show, Queen Sugar. I think that's the name. I know it's filmed down here in New Orleans, but that's besides the point. She also was on True Blood. I'm a fan of hers, and yeah, they have this community of called Jackson, and Jackson is from the video game. All that is true. Tommy and Maria married. That is true from the game. Everything works there. Everything works there. And we get to the scene where Joel and Tommy are having this discussion, and Joel just pours his heart out to Tommy, and he confirms what we've been talking about this whole show when we discuss Joel. Joel lost everything. You understand? He lost everything, and he failed to protect all the people that he hold dear. He tried to protect his daughter. She died. He couldn't protect Tess. She died. He tried to protect Tommy. He left. Everything he did failed, and he had to do these unspeakable things in order to survive for the last 20 years throughout this epidemic. Things that that he's ashamed of, ultimately, but he excuses it by saying, I had to do what I had to do to survive. But that wasn't him, you know. So he had to do things that just was not of him, and he has failed. And the line that he gave Tommy was when he sleeps and he dreams about Sarah, his daughter, and how he wakes up before he can be able to save her, and stuff like that. And he's like, I fail in my sleep. Everything that I tried to protect, I lost, you know? And he admitted that he has grown fond. He has grown feelings for this girl. He has basically adopted her as his daughter, something that he didn't want to do. And he is so afraid of not being able to protect her because he has not protected anything. And he knows deep down that he will fail. At least that's what he believes. He will fail because nothing in his life has said otherwise. And so Tommy agrees. Tommy agrees to take Ellie and find the fireflies for him. Unbeknownst to Joel, Ellie heard the conversation. So now this scene between Joel and Ellie in that bedroom, in Ellie's bedroom, was right out of the video game. And in the video game, it held weight. On this show, it held big weight. it, it was so well acted. It was so powerful for Joel to basically just be like, look, I I gotta do this. This is something you gotta do. You'll be safer with Tommy. And for Ellie to tell him, no, you would not, I would not be safer with Tommy. And she brings up Sarah. And immediately Joel shuts down. He doesn't want to talk about Sarah. He doesn't want to talk about his daughter. And she tries to explain to him that she truly understands what he's going through. She's sorry that he lost his daughter. And Joel's like, you don't understand loss. You don't know what the meaning of loss is. And Ellie immediately shuts him down. And boy, Bella Ramsey just destroyed this scene here. she ate Pedro Pascal up in this scene. And I mean, I got chills when she told him, everybody that I've loved has either left me or died, except for you. If I go with Tommy, I don't think he can protect me. I know you can. I know you can. And it was just powerful. Like, and for Pedro Pascal, or the character of Joel, to still shut it down, because at this point he's convinced himself, man, this is it. I can't do this. And look, man, I'm a father. I'm a father of two beautiful daughters. And the idea of not being able to protect your kids, that is my biggest nightmare. That is my big that is my biggest fear. And bruh, Joel displays my fear. He is the manifestation of my fear. I I can feel it in him. Bruh, this is premium acting, man. If you are an inspiring actor or actress, watch this show. This is a masterclass of acting. So Ellie, the next morning, Ellie, she's all dressed, she's packed, she's ready to go. And you could tell on her face while she's sitting in that room, she's praying that Joel will open that door and take her where she needs to go. And the look on her face when Tommy opens that door to take her, it was like pure devastation. But she just shrugged it off and walked out, only to get to the stable and Joel is standing there, and he was gonna leave. But I love this scene. It was quick, not much dialogue. We didn't drag this on with a 20-minute monologue or nothing. Joel says, "Look, you deserve a choice. You can either go with me," and she just before he could finish that, she just gave him the bag like, "Let's go." Let's go. All I could do was bust out like, I'm like, but that's beautiful. That's beautiful. We don't need to drag this out. She wants you. It was so touching in a way. It was funny but touching at the same time because despite the fact that Ellie knows that Joel can protect her better, she loves him, and she knows that he loves her, and he loves her. It's the same thing. They have grown that bond, and throughout this episode, that bond that we saw sprinklings to started to be come around in episode 4 and 5. It all came to a crescendo here as they were, you know, getting to Jackson, where Tommy was, and especially after this scene, the bond that they have. It was just beautiful. This is it. This relationship happened so organically. I cannot. I'm just blown away by the patience that this show took to build this relationship between these two, and it's perfect. It's honest to God perfect. So when they get to this college, that once again ripped from the game on the horse, you go into this facility to find the fireflies. They get there and no fireflies, and uh, we get a run in with some hunters. Joel fights one off, does his patented choke kill that he does in the game, only to find out he got stabbed with a broken bat. And they get away, but as they get away, Joel, he's losing blood and he falls off the horse. And Ellie is trying to wake him up and trying to get him to get back on the horse because she can't do this alone. And but Joel is out. And so that's how the episode went off. And man, look, those who know the game know what's coming next. So I'm not gonna go deep into that. Even though the next episode is not gonna go into that. The next episode actually is not a part of part one or part two of the games. Rather, it's a separate game that you could play. Called Left Behind, I think it's called, which coincidentally is the name of the episode next week, and it tells a different story, and I think that's what we're going to get into next week. But after that, with Joel and Ellie, the main storyline, pretty much have an idea of what's going to happen next, and I think that's probably going to get us to the end of the season because I believe it's only 9 episodes this first season, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, this is yeah, it is 9 episodes, so there's only 3 left. But yeah, we're rounding out to a real interesting end to this first season. So scrap in for this one. It's going to be exciting if it's anything like the game, which thus far it has been. Um, it's weird because I know a lot of people who don't know anything about The Last of Us who watch this show just to see infected running around are kind of confused by this episode because you don't see not one infected in this episode, and it didn't matter. It did not matter, and that's not the game. That's not how the game go. I mean, there is a lot of infected. Don't get me wrong, um, because in this episode, they did cut a lot out of it. Let me put things in. Let me put it like this. Um, The Last of Us. If you was to take the video game and just watch it as a movie, it would be a 7 hour long movie. I kid you not. It's on YouTube. You can go and watch it. Just the cinematic parts, not the gameplay, but the cinematic parts. It'll be about 6 or 7 hours long. I forgot the exact time. Uh, but it is long. That's how long of a story this tells. And there are gonna be some cut parts from the video game, and I'm all for that. That's fine as long as you stay true to the source material, which this show has. There was a part like after Ellie finds out that Joel wants to ditch her with Tommy, it's she runs off and it's a kind of a chase to get her bag, and then you run into infected and all this here. All that was in the game. It really didn't need that for the show, and I'm glad they didn't do that, honestly. So that was a smart decision there. There's another point I wanted to make about this episode uh that I kind of blew through. Like Tommy and Joel. When Tommy explains to Joel that, he has a life here. His life is good. And Joel sees this. Joel has been just going through the ringer throughout life, at least for the last 20 years. So he's been going from pillar to post and all this here. And he finds Tommy just living his best life in this commune in Wyoming, and it's kind of heartbreaking. And Tommy is like shooing Joel off in a sense, and it was kind of heartbreaking. And it was good for them to have that conversation later on about how Joel has been dealing with things emotionally, what he's been going through emotionally. And that kind of humbled Tommy, but at the same time, Joel did not uh he didn't really hold nothing against Tommy in a sense. He didn't really uh throw things in his face or nothing like that, other than the fact that Tommy brought up some things that Joel did in his past, and Joel was like, "No, we both did that." We both did it to survive. And that was the only other time they did that. But yeah, I just brought that up because I just enjoyed the Tommy Joel dynamic of this episode. Wish we got a little more. I think my only, I guess you could say, ding is the fact we're not going to get more of that relationship, at least for now. We may get it later on down the line if you know the games, but uh, yeah, man, I'm really kind of upset that we didn't get a lot more between those two, because I'm a big fan of those actors, both of them, Pedro Pascal and Gabrielle Luna. Um, so their dynamic together is like explosive, and we just saw a little piece of it in this episode. But speaking of this episode, The Last of Us season 1, episode 6, titled Ken Gets a Letter Grade of an A. It's once again great episode, great addition to this series that has just swept the world by storm. This has been an amazing show. By the way, this episode was directed by Jasmine Benzak. Benznak. She's Bosnian. I can't pronounce her last name too good, but I can't say she directed the heck out of this episode. That I can't say. Very good episode. Once again, it was written by Craig Mazin, who is doing God's work. And man, I am so excited moving forward in this show. Can't wait for next week. But yeah, so far we have gotten straight A's thus far in 6 episodes. So let's see how these last 3 will round out this season. Anyways, boys and girls, if you want to get in contact with the show, don't forget you can email the show kbradiopodcast at gmail.com. Also look me up on Twitter at KB Radio Network, and on other social media platforms, just look up the KB Radio Network. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you may be listening to Movie Goodness on KB Radio Network. And also don't forget that we are on YouTube. Don't forget to swing on YouTube and give us a subscribe. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this weekly review of The Last of Us, currently on HBO and HBO Max. What a show. What a show. Anyways, everybody, I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everybody. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.